Hi guys, welcome to my channel, Lighting Your Sunshine, where we like to shine a light within and empower ourselves. So today's reading is going to be based off of the poll that was on my community page. There's 3 sets of cards to choose from, and to be honest, I wouldn't have chosen this one, but I didn't feel drawn to it. But I learned so much from this, so I'm very thankful for everyone who clicked on it and voted, because I learned some real soul growth lessons through this. And it kind of played out synchronistically with some other things. So I feel called towards the end of the reading to share a portion of my story that I've been going through. It's just something that I don't really like talking about publicly, but I feel called to share after this reading and this week's synchronicities. So thank you for being a part of my journey. So today, let's just go and see what cards we had. We had Goddess Lakshmi with Dendricate Agate with her Golden Grace. That one's so pretty. We had Authentic Voice with Angel Bath Coal and Aquamarine. And the last one was Tiger Spirit Rises with Archangel Anactial and Tiger's Eye. Okay, so I did use, last reading I used music to kind of help get some insights, but this one I watched a documentary on Disney called Tiger. And so if you haven't watched it and you plan on watching it, I'm going to wreck it all in this reading. So if you want to watch it, maybe stop this video, go watch it, and then come back and see. But I got a lot of insights from watching it, clearly because it says Tiger Spirit Rises, and it was the perfect movie to go in with this reading. And so in that movie, in that documentary, it was about a tiger named Ambar, and she has 4 cubs, and it's her raising them. And so from that Ambar, I was really getting Amber energy, and Amber really showed me family and healing. Right, because a lot of the times Amber collects the old prehistoric bits and preserves them. And so in this movie, it's all about her teaching her cubs and the traditions passed down. And then the whole theme of all these cards was changing your fate and healing your inner child. And so I don't really know where to kind of start off. We'll start, okay, I wrote it so weird that I had to number them. I got 1 over here, 2 and 3. So we'll just start off with the cards. So her Golden Grace, which kind of golden is with Amber as well. Golden Lakshmi with Dendric Agate. So who is Lakshmi? She's a Hindu goddess, and she's the goddess of wealth, prosperity, beauty, fortune, and fertility. She has several avatars, and so when you have several avatars, it kind of talked about how that is bringing the presence of the gods to earth to hear the message, which when I got that message, I thought that was interesting, because over here we had an angel, Bath Coal, and then Archangel Anichiel. And so I was really thinking it was going the other way. I thought the energy was going upwards, and this one was like, no, it's how divine brings it down into earth. And so as I wrote here, I see. No, I didn't write it down. But that's pretty much about anchoring heavenly energy, heavenly angelic energy, goddess energy, and anchoring it down into the earth. And that's what she does, is she's the goddess of wealth and beauty and prosperity. And so she showers you with all these gifts and these knowledge and these things. From there, on this card, there was the Dendric Agate. So if you kind of look up close, it looks like there's these little markings. It usually gets kind of confused with moss agate, but Dendric Agate has ferns and little things like that, inclusions in it. And so from there, I saw the fern, they showed me a fawn. and the fawn was being hunted by the tiger, because in this reading you are the tiger, but they showed it that you started off as the fawn. And then so the fawn was very unsure of their circumstances. You know, they got like those wobbly legs, and they don't really have a lot of defenses. And so the tiger, like, that's their number one threat, right? And so it showed that, and then it said lots of unnecessary, feeling lost and uneasy on their path. They kept showing me the shaky legs. And so I saw that as, like, as I said, inner child healing. The shaky legs being unconfident on your choices. And so as the movie started off, it had Umbar, but she was the mother, right? She had learned all the lessons and she was sharing those to the young ones. So they were very vulnerable, and they needed that protection and that help, because there's just so many threats in the jungle. And so it takes place in India, and yeah, not really sure. And then so one really interesting fact that I heard in the documentary was there was one part where they were hunting a fawn, and she was walking like out in like daylight, but just going really, really slow. And she said that it was Priyanka Chopra, Jonas, whatever. She was the narrator, and she said that tigers are orange. She didn't say that. Obviously, tigers are orange, but that fawns are colorblind to the color orange. So you could be out in the middle of daylight with this bright color and still kind of blend in. And then they talked about how the stripes on a tiger help them kind of cut up their body line so you don't see like the fierce wild cat shape. And so I just thought that was really cool fact, and I had to include it in this because I was like, that's so cool. So it shows me this as you starting off, but you have someone who's providing for you wealth and generosity and all these things. And it does come a time in your life where it needs to kind of transition, right? You can't be the child forever. There's a point where, right, you become a teenager, an adult or something, somewhere on the journey, because it was all about changing your fate. It's all about the wheels of time. And so that kind of brought us to the next one, because you've got all this assistance, you've got all this heavenly guidance, and there is a point where you need to tap in and find your authentic voice. You can't always do things that other people tell you to do. You got to find your own intuition and your own path and your own story, because we all have our own purpose, and our purpose is different for everybody. So Archangel Bath Cole, she is the heavenly voice. So in the Bible, I guess she is the one who speaks to earth the prophecies or the message from God. And I thought that was so interesting because, as this one said, Lakshmi had many, many avatars. And what that meant was God's coming to earth. And I really saw it as like authentic voice. And in rising into your tiger power was the other way the energy was going. It's like you're ascending higher and higher on your path, but it's the other way around. It's like all this heavenly energy coming to you and giving you direction on your path. And so for those who are lost and cannot decipher the omens, all right, because you're a fawn and you're kind of got that shaky and you don't have your authentic voice yet, this is someone that you can call on, because you have a purpose. You have a purpose bigger than living the normal 9 to 5 and doing what other people tell you to. You woke up today because you have something special to provide this world, and it's not just to be a follower. It's not just to be something that others can take advantage of. You have your own unique expression, and we want you to share it with the world. So if you find, as it said, those who are lost and cannot decipher the omens, you ask on this angel, and then the answers will come. And so, did I miss anything? Not yet. Like I said, I wrote it so scattered because I was watching the movie, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is all the answers to the reading. And then I started, and it went movie, card, movie, this. So it's how time flows. Which is gonna come there's one part we get to where I did a reading in April that is so connected to this. It blew my mind, actually. When I was watching it back, I was like, it's kind of creepy, actually. Like shivers. Woohoo. But so with this authentic voice came aquamarine. And so I always know aquamarine as like, as soon as I put it in my hand, I can be overthinking and not doing anything. Like I could be so stressed. As soon as I put it in my hand, my mind is clear. My mind's like, shoo. It's just so calming and soothing. And so what I wrote was how it calms the mind, but it purifies the system. It purifies the body to go back into like clear, tranquil blue waters. You know, whenever you go to the water, it tends to be a thing that helps calm us. And that's what aquamarine kind of is. It's like the ocean in rock form that helps you with your system. But what's also interesting is that aquamarine is also very much associated with breathing and the breath and the lungs and those kind of things, and the throat, which will play a part pages later. And so let's see here. Yeah, it's very much connected to the throat chakra. And so when it comes to your breath and feeling calm and confident in purifying the body, right, we can't hear the message because it said someone feeling lost on their path. You can't hear the message if you're a busybody. If your body's buzzing, if your mind's racing, you're not going to see the signs and synchronicities. You can't decipher the omens because they're out there plenty, but there's just too much garbage plugging the path. And so 2 and 2, from there it kind of brought me now into none of these cards. These two somehow, it was the movie. So there was this one part in the movie where Shankar, so he's almost like the Shere Khan of the jungle, and he's the mean one, not the mean one, but he's the mighty male, you know, he's very territorial, doesn't let anyone else, he's the threat to the cubs. There's one point where he's just sitting at the edge of the water. There's all these flies all over him, because those aren't threats to him. And so all these frogs come up and they just cover him, and he doesn't care because they're eating the flies. It's like a ecosystem, or it starts with a P, but it reminded me of the Egyptian goddess Heket. She's that one with the frog head. But frogs, they symbolize huge transformation. They start their life as a tadpole, and then from the tadpole, they grow into a frog. So they live their first part of life underwater in the depths. And then once they change and transform, they go onto air and on land. And so when they go on land, they can breathe. So there's something really important to do with your breath and your voice. And your breath is becoming through in most readings. It hasn't really quite gotten really in depth about it, but each time it's just like another little nug of wisdom about it. But your breath is life. And so I wrote, they transform and they go from one environment to another. They also represent fertility. And so with fertility, I felt called to write little stars above it. And that will play in later. But fertility, for now, why I was like, ooh, cool, is Lakshmi. So we've got the Egyptian goddess, and then we've got Heket, the Egyptian god. And so who does Heket represent? Well, she's wealth, fertility, and so wealth, there's that wealth again. That's what Lakshmi is she's like gold. She's represented by an owl and like pretty much gold, like put a golden bucket with coins overflowing, and that's Lakshmi. And so she brings good luck and abundance to those, and she brings beauty and just makes things more beautiful. And so from there, we've got two goddesses coming through who are bringing wealth and beauty. But yet, it's talking about you needing to find your feet, your grounding, to go from the fawn to the tiger energy. So Lakshmi and frogs. Okay, so not Lakshmi, but that's that connection. And so there's one part when I started looking into Heket, it talked about how frogs were birthed from the mud after long hibernation. Okay, so not Lakshmi, Heket, they say that her counterpart, or her husband, is Khanfu. He's the one with the potter's wheel. And so that's what he does, is he takes the mud and puts it on the potter's wheel, and he's creation. He creates life. And with Heket being that of fertility and giving kind of life, it's this cool, I don't know, just regeneration keeps coming up, transformation and renewal, fertility. Think about it. Women who can give birth and create from nothing, that's a freaking miracle. So I didn't really know much about her. I just kind of knew about the frogs have been coming up a lot lately, and that she is an Egyptian goddess that represents fertility. So I started kind of like Googling her. I was like, what else is there? And so the beginning of her worship, because they used to worship her, dated back to early dynastic period. So that's like 3,000 years BCE, or earlier even. That's just the earliest that they could find. 3,000 years before Christ. And so they have these things called the pyramid texts, and she was mentioned in them. And I don't really know what the pyramid texts are. It kind of sounds like they're kind of similar to like the Book of the Dead or something like that. There was like spells in them or something, but she was mentioned in an ascension spell. And that's when I was like, whoa, because like I said, I really felt energy going this way, but they're telling me the energy's coming this way. And so there, it kind of switched and it flipped. And it talked about how she was in an ascension spell for helping the hinder parts of the king. So it was kind of like the ritual for a funeral to help the pharaoh or the king pass over into the underworld and let their soul ascend. A death and a rebirth. They kind of come together. And that's what it said here is, I said it was like the wheel or the cycle, but it's changing your fate. Something has to die for something to be reborn. And so there's parts where she's associated with bringing life back to Osiris. And so Osiris is Isis's counterpart, where Set, his brother, was jealous of him because he slept with Set's wife, and that's how Anubis was born, who's the caretaker of the underworld. But so he went and he took Osiris and he cut him into, I believe, 7 pieces and tossed them all around the world. And so Isis had to go on this journey and collect these pieces and then bring them back together. And so his symbolization is that of a mummy. And so that's kind of interesting with this ascension spell for helping the kings get to the next world, because that's what they kind of did with their pharaohs, is mummified them. Now, I'm not positive on that. I think I heard somewhere that, I don't know, something about mummies. Not part of this reading, let it go. And so with Osiris coming back to life, that's regeneration. And so I forget how it went, right? He becomes the tree. And then, which is what this, it's like a fern and tree bits within this crystal. So that's interesting. I didn't put that tree part together. I'm just talking now. But, and then I think it's Anubis who this hair is bugging me. Anubis who kind of like helps him bring him back and things like that. But Heket is there at his feet because she is fertility, she is life. Because they say frogs, they say that we come from the mud. We came from nothing, right? Like amoebas and growing and things. But yeah, frogs bury themselves within the mud, and then Khonshu, whatever his name, takes the mud and creates. Like it's this beautiful rebirth process, to go from the real depths of the water. Now they're bringing in Set, how Set is like darkness and chaos. No, not Set, the alligator one. And I don't know, it starts with a H, I believe. Anyways, the alligator one is like the animalistic part of your brain, and how it just sits within the waters and it just observes in the depths. What are you talking about this? Because that did not come up in my reading at all. It's talking about how the tadpole can go from the depths of the water, and then how it could transform onto life and then change to the other part of the brain, and then, start breathing and have this new life, the two parts of life. Yeah. And so with that, it's really talking about this like life and a death and rebirth kind of thing. And so with the mom as the tigers, sorry, this seems like so choppy, but when I was writing it, I'm like, ooh, this is good, but I don't like being one to stop and like, let me read my notes. But it's not engraved in here because I didn't see this reading happening at all. I didn't see these goddesses coming and teaching this stuff, because I'm still soaking it up and I'm still learning. But the next part, I'll be able to blab on my own. But we'll move on. We'll move on to now the Archangel. So we've got Archangel Anachiel with Tiger's Eye, with the tiger spirit rising. So after that death, right? After that death, and then Osiris and that regeneration and that rebirth, coming back to life, now it's like that tiger spirit rising. That's you coming into your power. So now you've officially gone from the fawn who was so weak and didn't know about what to do, where to go, like life was pretty scary, that you had others, right? You had these golden goddesses knew way more than you. Your parents knew more than you. Your teachers knew more than you. All these people knew more than you, and you relied on them. And for a bit, you did need them. But there's a point where you come into your authentic voice and you realize that what they do isn't what I'm being called to do, because I have a purpose. I have this fire within me, right? There's the fire on it. This fire within me that needs to be independent. I need to go off on my own and do my own things and make my own mistakes and my own lessons. And so Archangel Anachiel watches over the sign Sagittarius. He's the archangel that watches over the sign Sagittarius. And Sagittarius, they're like wanderlust, right? They love traveling and meeting people, and they're very fiery spirits, right? Fire energies are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. But they're more of the, I almost want to say wishy-washy of them, but it's only because like the other ones really want to be the leaders, and they're just like, I'm fine with everyone else being the leader. I still have that fire, don't control me. But I'm commitment is hard for them, right? Because they kind of are wanderlust, what's next, what can we learn? This individual adventure, this sense of freedom is what they have. It's like individualism and freedom. And so what did I write here? Oh, and then from there, they brought me to an old reading that I did. I did a teacup reading, tea leaf reading, and I've only ever done one on the channel. But I just felt called to do it that day. And then there was Sagittarius symbol in there. And I was like, oh, maybe there's a connection to it. And there is. I freaking watched the video and it blew my mind. I was just like, damn, this like synchronicity, synchronicity, synchronicity. So I'm going to tag it down below. I do recommend watching it because it seems like there's lots of these insights that come in that are like astronomically based, but they're very vague. It's almost like this adventure chapter that's unfolding, and sometimes it's good just to go back and reflect. But this keeps predicting about something that we're working to up until November. So that was in April. We're at the end of May now, so we're starting June. But the more and more I keep looking into it, I'm just like, wow, there's so much more to that reading than at the time I knew, which happens to a lot of things that I say and do. But yeah, back to Archangel Anachiel. It was all about individualism and your free spirit. No longer seeking permission from others. It's time to turn your hopes into dreams. Time to turn your hopes and dreams into reality. You're coming back to your power to fulfill your prophecy. And so, right, that was Archangel Bathkol, and they were the whisper of prophecy. They go, most of the stories that she kind of got mentioned in were those who had, in the Bible, prophecies. They'd be in like their worst times and not knowing how to pick themselves back up. And she would kind of give them the answers. So that's the present energy right now, is this getting the answers. So we're not fully into this tiger spirit rising, but we're getting there. We've had these moments in the past that were so good and so golden and full of abundance, but it seems like those have kind of like severed or cut ties, and now we're in this part where we need to stand on our own. And so we're like, which way do I go? Like, what is my purpose? And that is probably the one question that probably plagues most people. And usually it's a lot more simple than people make it out to be. Usually it's about you doing what it is that you love doing and just being happy. But it's hard for us to shine and show our true authentic self when we're scared of being judged. So that's where this fire spirit's going to come, this tiger energy. And when I think of the tiger energy, it does tie into the last reading with Mother Durga, because she rode a tiger in that. There's this pastel tiger in the background, and she was power. She was all power. She could defeat all evil and do all these things. But it's not really coming in here, this reading, but the tiger is. It's that power from her. And so, yeah, it's time to take your power back and fulfill your prophecy. And so one line that I really liked from the documentary about tigers was how it said that each stripes, like every tiger, they earn their stripes, but each stripe is unique, like a barcode. And so that's that tiger spirit. You're unique and you have a special purpose. You woke up today for a special purpose. I don't know what it is. It's for you to figure out. And to figure out would be the last reading about how you need to go within. It's your body is a temple, right? You need to go within and hear those answers from that angel that's trying to share the information. You got a team of spirit guides all around you who are leaving signs and synchronicities all the time. Every day, 1 million of them. It's just hard for us to stay clear to hear the channel. We need to fine-tune ourselves so that we can be at that frequency to receive them. And so what I thought was really interesting. Now I'm just kind of going to go into the tiger documentary. So Umber, she had 4 cubs, and out of those 4, can't remember the names all of a sudden, there was it started with an R. It was like Ryu or Ryu or something like that. Ivy, Rogo, and Charm. And so as soon as I saw Charm, I just knew there was something special with her in this documentary. I felt a connection to her because her energy is kind of what's coming through in this. She was the shy one. She's the one who wasn't very sure of herself. She wasn't loud. She didn't come and demand presence or take up space. She was the littlest of them, just super shy. She was that fawn energy. So all the other ones kind of went out and were like playing, and they got more attention. But she just kept to herself. But she kept learning lessons, right? Followed her mom, did those things. But there is one moment in the documentary where the monsoon season comes. And I had that here with the authentic voice and the aquamarine, the water, those clear waters. Well, the monsoon is freaking, and it's saying like for those who are in a monsoon, to call on this, to use aquamarine to help you find that peace, the stillness. But the monsoon itself, so Charm and her brother got lost. They got separated. And so Umber afterwards, unfortunately the brother did pass away, and then they led it to believe that she had passed away, right? Because she was so quiet, so shy, so all these things. And it hurts your heart. But eventually they find her. She was just sitting in a quiet place. She was just chilling with her aquamarine. And so that monsoon, I saw it kind of as like the dark night of the soul. So when the dark night of the soul comes, it is something that just ravishes your energy. You're like, and you got to find that calm. You have to find a way through it. It's not quite that you can go through it. You just endure it. That's it, right? Because it's all within. So to run away from yourself, to go through it, like, you just endure it. You're gonna have these emotions that come up, and you're just gonna witness them and observe them. And then afterwards, when the monsoon season stops, you're gonna be stronger because of the storm. And so from there, they find her, and there's a reunion. And so there's a little bit more lessons that they still had to learn from their mom. A little bit more hunting skills, things like that. But because of this monsoon, this dark night of the soul that Charm went through, she became very self-reliant on herself. She no longer relied on her mom for food, whereas the others did. She went and hunted her own and did her own thing and did all these things. And so at the end, there's this point where, because right, tigers are solitary creatures. They don't live in packs. They're not like lions. So there is a point where, you've got all this abundance and things from your mom, from Lakshmi, things like that. But there's a point where it needs to be cut off, and you need to go off on your own journey because you found your authentic voice, and you need to tap into your tiger spirit and follow your purpose, because your purpose is different than everyone else's. We'll say this a million times in this reading, but it's true. And so in the documentary, from her being the very, very shy one, the one that was very just kept to herself and scared, she was the very first one to actually cut ties from her mom, because this monsoon strengthened her. She became very self-reliant. And so the other ones, it took them a while to kind of understand, like, oh, like my mom is telling me I need to get out of here. And so yeah, she's the first one. She just took off. She led the way. She became the leader. And I was just like, woo. But and then eventually they kind of have like a little feedback, right? Because they all eventually are going to have to leave their mom. And so I see this reading as like there's something from your past that was beautiful or abundant or prosperous that kind of got cut away, and that you had to go and find your own feeding, your own authentic voice, and then step into your tiger power and become the leader or follow the path that you were meant to follow. And so as Charm did this, they kind of go and they all go off on their path. They do like a little update, and at the end it was just so neat to see. But it's like, because this is all about the wheel, this is all about fate, and the wheel never stops turning. So in the update at the end, Charm had become the mother, and she had 2 cubs that she was now going to take everything that Umber taught her and teach these cubs. And one day she's gonna have to cut them off too and let the cycle continue. But it was just such a good documentary for this reading because it goes exactly with all of this. It's semi-charm kind of life. I want something else. And so, with that, that's kind of the ending of these cards, but it then brought me to my tea leaf reading. And with my tea leaf reading, holy freaking crap, did I get some insights. And I'm feeling kind of nervous now because I really feel called to share my story, but I don't want to share my story, but I'm going to. And so, just some cool insights I found. I got butterflies in my stomach. Okay, things that I just found interesting at the beginning is in this tea leaf reading, I called it card/tea leaf reading with Ascended Master 33 energy. And then I put 3 stars on it, which kind of brought up Orion's belt. And what's interesting is before I had even gone through any of these cards in more in depth, I got to Lakshmi, and when I saw fertility, I started putting the stars above it. So there was something to do with fertility and Orion's belt. And then Orion's belt within that reading kind of led me to Sagittarius. All right, and so another cool coincidence, the reading was called Master Energy 33 Energy, and as I watched it, I was the 33rd person to view it. I thought that was cool. It starts off, I'm like, I'm using my grandmother's cards, which then made me think of the Tiger family, right? And generations and passing things down and then becoming your own authentic version. And then somewhere in there, I talked about healing. I talked about how everything is connected, and it was really focused on in this reading about timelines. So it talked about the energy within you that goes like this, but then it talked about how we try to bend the timelines and make things happen or be happier than we are when we're not. And it's just like it compared it to a water slide. And doing all these extra loop-de-loos and all this extra energy and wasting when it should just be straight to the point. Like, right, when it comes to timelines, you can manifest very, very easy. Which then, it talked, in one point, I mentioned that you don't heal just one thing, you heal all things, right? So if you want to home, relationships, or health, you just work on your energy and you heal all of those at the same time. You can't really focus on one part and not heal all of them. Because if you're doing the work, you're raising your vibration, everything's going to change. And so with that, I got the amber energy, and then Lakshmi came in with, and so Lakshmi is associated with the color gold. I felt like amber is very much healing. It's a crystal that you use to heal. And then I saw like the prehistoric things in it and how you can use that to, I saw that as family healing and timelines and things like that. So this is the part where I get a little bit nervous, but in it, this is like so close to the beginning of that reading, and I don't talk about weight often, but for some reason I use the example when it comes to healing all things, and I use weight as an example. And yeah, I was like, if you want to lose like weight, why do you have the weight? Like, what is keeping the weight there? We could say it's because, you know, I eat too much or I eat poorly, but usually there's a mental and emotional things kind of attached to it. And so once you start healing the past things, everything changes. Your body will change. And so what I thought was really interesting is I just finished a 3-day water fast. Today is the first day that I got to eat some food, where I was breaking my fast, but I did this for spiritual reasons. I didn't do it to lose weight. I did it because there was some ties that were energetically bombarding me, that I just felt I couldn't get past some things in my past, right? And so I've talked about how I moved across the country, but I never said why I moved across the country. And so I keep seeing the past as like way more beautiful, right? I loved my home. I loved the land. I loved how I was by Fish Creek Park, and how if I ever wanted to go to the river, it was a 5-minute walk, all these things. Like, I just loved all of it. But the reason why I had to leave that is because I found myself in a very codependent, toxic environment, which is interesting because I'm not gonna say like they were all the problem, and no, I'm the villain in their story, so let's not get that wrong. But let's see, I used food as my escape. I smoked so much weed back then. So since then, I've quit smoking weed, and I thought that that would solve my problems. I thought that that would make me more present, but I realized that it was food. I got to this point in my life where I'd be eating and nothing tastes great anymore. I wasn't enjoying food. I think I was just eating food because I had to eat food, but I was eating so much food because I never got that full feeling. And so I was having all these ties like mentally to the past, and I really want to let that go because it wasn't good for me. As soon as I got myself in that environment, I gained so much weight. And it was like, I see weight when you're in an environment that's not great for you. I gain weight no matter what. And so I see now it just wasn't the best environment for me. And that weight is kind of like a buffer so that you don't take on as much as that energy. And so in that environment, I fought so much. And that kind of, I'm thankful, because it really made me into my tiger spirit. Like, I used to be such like a pushover, a people pleaser. I'm not that. I'll speak up with my authentic voice, and I'll say that's not right, this ain't right. Like, I'm gonna stand my ground. And so that's something that I did learn from that, and I'm thankful. But I was finding that because of that, I found myself, okay, so this water fast, I only did it 3 days. I was gonna do it 7 days because I really wanted, again, not for weight loss, but for after a certain amount of time where the cells all start to renew themselves, right? You let go of all the old damaged ones and then the new ones. That's what I wanted. That was my goal. But I just thought that was kind of too long, that you can still get the benefits from the 3 days. And I learned the insights that I needed to learn. And so even as I incorporate food back in, I eat very mindful now. I eat slow. I taste the food so much more than I ever did. Before, I was a person who would eat mass quantities and fast, and I never had that full feeling. And so the reason why I'm kind of stuck on the past is because I have this telepathic bond with someone. And every time I don't know if they're doing their healing or if they're better off, and because it's not my business. But I almost found that almost every full moon I would get bombarded with this energy. And this energy would just kind of like, I'd be doing my thing in my tiger energy, and then I'd be like, oh, like it just was a drain to me. And so at one point, I did call them months ago, and they're like, oh, I was just thinking of you. And I was like, oh, that's freaking it. Like, I am picking up on this person's energy. And so I keep getting this all the time. Like, I thought, you block them, you do all these things, but maybe that will sever the ties, but it's still there. And so I was having this visualization. So in this reading, it kept talking about the throat, and then I'm seeing authentic voice. And so finally, at one point, I just couldn't let this cord go. I could cut it, I could do all these things. I learned about bonds and all these things, but it just kept attaching back. And so they showed it as this scarf that was like choking me. And one day I just took the scarf and I threw it up in the air, and it was just like a balloon floating out of your consciousness. And I was like, it was so far gone. I never felt them anymore. But every time I looked up, there was like this little black dot. And this black dot over here, it talks about in the reading about bats and spookiness, and how you need to transform it. Or I actually said cell transformation, which kind of like made me go like, whoa, that's why I was doing the water fast. It's because I wanted those cells to renew and regenerate and like let go of the old, because the old me was still there. I just really needed to heal and regenerate. And so one time I looked at it and I said, why is it still here? And then it popped. And as it popped, all this black sludge came out. And I was just like, oh God, like how am I gonna deal with this? It was like thick oil kind of things. And then Spirit kind of popped up with a flashlight. And I'm being drawn to this card now. There's the light. And soon as that darkness, I put the light to it, it disintegrated it. And I don't feel that telepathic bond, anything. I don't feel any connection anymore. And so I found this fast to be mental, physical, and emotional, because food has always been, as my parents, they always gave me food to show me how they loved me. Anyways, so this was like so tough, and this was like me taking my power back and going back and doing what I want. And not feeling bad for the things that I did, because those fights were so bad. And in the end, he never really cared about my point of view of the things, because he's a Leo, right? And he never supported me on these things. He never watched, I don't know if he watches my videos, I don't know. But when I was with him, he never did. And it's because he thought I was always talking about him. And I never did, but now I am. And so I was in a very toxic relationship, and I knew the moment it became toxic, because this was so empowering for me. And the only thing that I can compare it to is the Vipassana retreat, when I went and took a vow silence for 10 days, and you do like 10.5 hours of meditation, and you only do the body scan, and you do all those things. When I left that, I was like at my peak. I was like at my happiest. And so, right, I think it was just shortly after that. No, I kind of did my thing, but I was like doing my thing. I was like single, loving life. Didn't matter if I had a significant other or not. And then one day I met him, and it started off so great. It started off lovely. Yeah, it was such a different person. And then I went on a second Vipassana retreat at the beginning of our relationship. And I had just gotten over this really weird sickness. I almost feel like it might have been COVID before COVID became a thing here. Like, I feel like, no, I actually got COVID. Whatever this was, it transformed all the time. It was like, it hurt your back. I don't know what it was. My brother had a sickness. No, my dad had a cold for half a day, gave it to my brother, who had it for like 2 days, and then I had it forever. And it changed and it transformed and it did all these things. And I very rarely get sick. Like, I really don't get sick unless I need to be sick to learn from that lesson. And so I had just gotten over this. It took me like a month. And so I was going to go to that Vipassana retreat a second time. And I kind of lied. I went there, and I had this roommate who just annoyed the crap out of me. She was always making noise, always doing like these things. She was just very inconsiderate, especially when it's supposed to be like a silent place. And so I just couldn't do it because she was distracting. But truth be told, I just wanted to be back home with my boyfriend. And that's when the bonds of codependency started, because I lied to them and I said I needed to go home because I was sick. I didn't feel good. that it had transformed again. And I still was kind of sick, but I should have. And my guides told me, if you leave now, this is going to be the hardest lesson for you to work through. And I said, I'm tough. I got tiger energy. And I went home. And I sped home because I was so excited just to go watch movies and hang out with him. But from there, that's the day I became codependent. Damn, that sucks to say. But so there's always this tie or this thing. And so because I was codependent, I gave up what I wanted very easily. Our fights, whenever I wanted something, he never wanted what I wanted. He didn't care what I wanted. I wanted to go to school, and we fought so much with that. I never did go to school. All these things. And so here I am, older, got myself out of that relationship, moved across the country, and I thought that that would have been enough. But it wasn't enough because it was a mental thing. I learned the dark side of energy being in that relationship. Again, I'm not going to say I was the most perfect person. I was the villain in his story, but I didn't want to be the villain anymore. I didn't want to be the one that crushes his happy days because I felt neglected. So, yeah. Anyways, I didn't want to ever share that, but for some reason, Spirit, especially in this reading, it kept talking about the throat, and it said, you need to share your story. But when I was saying it, I was telling you guys to go out there and share your story. I didn't want to share my story. I didn't want to talk about that. I felt like that was shit that maybe should have been said to a therapist. But you know what? If you could learn anything from my story and help you get out of your toxic bonds, then I'm glad to share. Because even as I was gone, I thought things would change. I just thought it would instantly be easier. I think I would go back to whatever, but it didn't. I was like this numb person for so long. I moved for a job, but that didn't work. That was red flags all over it, and I'm thankful that I left. I wish I had the energy to leave my relationship when things were getting that bad, but this one was like right at the beginning. I was like, red flag. Phew. Actually, I said I wanted to talk, but they wouldn't make time for me. And so I just peaced out. And so I got my tiger energy now. I'm not going to put up with red flags. I really am not. But I am finding that it made me I had a lot of walls. And so I had to learn to trust myself again, right? I had to get my authentic voice and hear that call of what I'm supposed to do. Because I do feel a huge sense of purpose or destiny unfolding. I know I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. I know things are all great. I just had to heal past that part. I had to really let the past go. I left the past, but I didn't let go of the past. And so, yeah, I went on a fast because I still had mental and emotional triggers. I wanted a real clean reset. And that kind of, your gut is so associated to your emotions and things like that. I miss the old happy me. I miss the carefree, trusting person because I still have those boundaries. I'll leave those red flags, but I didn't even want to go out and try anymore. I wanted to, so that's kind of what I've been doing today, is just like slowly learning to enjoy food again and reintroducing proper food into my gut so that I can have that culture, biome, whatever the right words are, to fuel my whole body. Because your body really is your temple, and it does store your past memories and all those things. And if you feel called to do a water fast, I think, follow your body and your intuition and talk to your doctor and all those things. Like, really do your research before you just go and do something. But today I woke up not feeling the best, actually, because it was like day 4 of fasting, and it was weird. I felt like my mind was on one planet and my body was on another planet. But once I kind of brought those two together and really did the insights and grounded them, I'm feeling much better. I'm feeling much more clear, and I feel great. My stomach feels great. And so the solar plexus, that's like your I am, that's your tiger spirit. And last night, as I was trying to sleep, I do Reiki, or energy work, not really Reiki, whatever I do, it's just energy work. My stomach was like, I felt like a freaking Care Bear. There was so much energy and power coming out of my solar plexus that I couldn't sleep, that I had to actually like learn to like calm the body. I needed some aquamarine for the solar plexus. But let's see if I missed anything. Yeah, I was eating and eating to fill a void, but I realized that that void was me needing to take control and my own power back. And so that's what this was. I had to focus on my breath and my body and what I feed it and how I feel at a more level than just meditating. And yeah, here's what I thought was interesting. I weighed myself. Again, it wasn't to lose weight, but as I said, I gained so much weight in that environment because I felt like when you're in an environment you're not meant to be, there's that cushion or that buffer. But I weighed myself today, and I am exactly the same weight as when I first started that relationship. I have finally let go of all that old weight and all that old baggage. So I didn't want to share that because I felt like that was so personal, but that's my story that I've been going through this last year. I was very codependent. I missed them very, very much, but I missed myself more. I missed getting to do what I was hoping for and wishing and those kind of things. And I'm excited for the future now because I feel a lot more clear, and I welcome new energy in because I got that tiger spirit to say, red flag, fuck off. So what I also thought was interesting was in that reading, it said leather and lace. And then I said, oh, sounds like Beauty and Grace. And then here we have her Golden Grace. Master number 33 was all like Jesus energy kind of thing, but it was all about being the master of your own destiny, which this whole thing was about, you controlling your fate. It talks about the throat a lot and talking about your authentic voice and your wish. It said, wish your wish, and it's time for you to start talking. And I was like, I don't want to share this story, but it said, less listening and start talking. Walk the walk and talk the talk. Talk your talk. And then in it, I was like, oh, this looks like an owl. And that's Lakshmi's animal. And then it goes into Orion's belt with Sagittarius season. And then there we have Archangel Anakiel, and he's the keeper of the watcher of Sagittarius. So there's something really big coming in November. So I don't know. I think it's just so beneficial to do the inner work because something big, November Sagittarius season, keeps coming up, and I can't wait to tell you what it is, or you tell me what it is, because I think it's going to be on a big scale. And then we talked about all that. Oh yeah, and then at the end of it all, it was all about stepping into your North Node, your true life's purpose, which all of this is about, getting your authentic voice and your tiger spirit. It's saying take care of your body because it's a temple. And so that's everything that I have written down. And I'm sorry if it seemed kind of choppy and I was like reading from a book and it's not quite me tapping in and doing those kind of things. But I still feel like it's a very important message and that the message got out. And I shared a bit of my story. And yeah, it's very interesting. I knew by leaving that retreat that I was going to go into a very hard cycle. And I still was like, it's fine, I choose the heart cycle. And I knew if I had stayed, that things would have been easier. Who knows, maybe things would have worked out if I stayed, because I would have stayed balanced. But I became very codependent. And he didn't have time for me. Who wants someone who is codependent? The less time I got, the more needy or angry I got. It's just silly. So anyways, that's my story. I think we should leave it there. I'm going to put up another poll this week and we'll see which ones. I still want to work with these cards because I feel a lot of insightfulness coming from it. But I just appreciate you guys picking it, because I went to pick these cards. I felt drawn to a different pile and I had so much insight, and it coexisted with so many things that happened this week with the water fast and that other reading and then this. I feel like I've ready to step into my tiger energy now. I said my story, I said the authentic voice. It was a mess last year. Most of the readings were quite negative. It was really dealing with dark stuff. And I feel like it was necessary because so many people are in a dark place. As this one said, the authentic voice. It's for those who have a higher purpose in life but seem to be trapped or stuck in something, to get those messages. So that was the present energy. The present energy was for you to call on this angel Beth Cole and get the answers and be calm and serene. Aquamarine. All right, have a good day and we'll see you next time. Bye guys.